Now, I told you I woke up with a good mood today until I saw a post by Rob Sampson. They sent a Rob Sampson on social media, and it had an audio clip attached to it. I may play it. I might try to get up while Rob. Anyway, Rob's on a call right now on Hotline. State Senator Rob Sampson. Rob, welcome to the program.
I am doing well, Pastor. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you just about ruined my morning today. I was up early, as I always am, and I was flipping through social media. And I saw this interview portion of the, because I didn't watch yesterday, quite frankly. I didn't watch Governor Lamont's press conference yesterday, and you obviously did, and you had posted a bit of audio from CTN, and I'm looking for it now. We're going to play it in just a second when I pull it up here, and I was baffled, and then things started coming together for me and making sense because of some other reports that I had received earlier in the week concerning whether or not our schools would open.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit about what. And I'm gonna see
first off, I hope you don't blame me for ruining your morning. I'm just
no. And you know what? My day is not ruined at all. I say that jokingly. I've got a family who loves me. I got 2 beagles. Most importantly, God loves me, and I'm fine. But I was a little dismayed. I have to be honest when I heard this.
Yeah, no, I was dismayed also when I heard the governor at the press conference yesterday, and largely it's because of the mixed signals that he's sending. It's only a week ago that he declared May 20th the day for reopening of businesses. And I was not happy with that at the time either, because I thought that was a pretty bold move to pick a date 6 weeks into the future, when none of us really know what's going to happen a week from now or 2 weeks from now, let alone 6 weeks.
You didn't know he was in the crystal ball business, did you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
I said you didn't know he was in the crystal ball business.
Exactly. And then a couple of days after that, he's talking about his business reopening panel, which I didn't appreciate either, because here I am. I'm an elected member of the General Assembly. I represent 100,000 people, and they chose me as their representative to make policy for the state of Connecticut. And here the governor is going to replace the legislature and the policymakers with his own panel of people.
Non-elected.
Yeah, and not even a week goes by. You have those two versions of what we're going to do. And then yesterday he's talking about 2 to 6 months for reopening.
Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly what he's got on his mind, but I want to play the audio that I basically woke up to this morning. And Mike, let's do this on the fly. Let's see if you can get a good level on this. All right, please. All right, let's listen to the governor from yesterday, and this is courtesy, the audio is courtesy of CTN.
When it comes to opening up different facilities, to do some of them on a simultaneous basis, a bar, a restaurant, a marina, even a beach. Down in Greenwich, they had to close Todd's Point Beach because a lot of people from New York were going up to that beach. If he he keeps his bars closed and we opened ours, you have people going back and forth. So I think, we're going to make up our own mind in terms of how we open up Connecticut over the course of the next, 2 6 months. We are coordinating some of these things just to do everything we can.
Well, now that was the thing that got my attention. 2 to 6 months, Rob.
Yeah.
We're going to reopen Connecticut in 2 to 6 months. Now, he must have made a mistake, right? He must have meant 2 to 6 weeks.
I don't think so. I saw him again earlier today on Fox News, and he indicated pretty much the same thing.
Well, he didn't. I don't know. I didn't catch the date, but he used the same excuse about the New York thing. Now let's stop and think about this for a minute. Under this emergency declaration that he has called for, however long he did it, he has broad, sweeping powers and authority. Chris Powells sent me the state statute. I could not believe all the things that he could do. Now, to his credit, he's acted in a very measured way. But you're going to tell me I can't open my business in Talon County, in Windham County, in Litchfield County, where I don't have hardly any cases of this at all, because I'm worried about somebody from New York driving across the state line? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I share your concern. Pastor, there's a lot of mixed signals coming from our state government. There is no question about it. I just mentioned that the three different versions of what our reopening strategy is, that we've heard from the governor just within 1 week alone. And my opinion has always been that the state government does not have the power to dictate the lives of its citizens. We are still free American citizens who make their own choices. The state government's responsibility is to share information with the free citizens so that they can assess the risk themselves and make their own decisions. That's not to say that the governor does not have broad powers under this, emergency dictate. I totally understand that.
He has enormous power, and he can wield it.
Yeah, well, the problem I have is that he is choosing what's essential and what's non-essential very arbitrarily.
Right.
It's also a mixed signal to say to the people who own businesses and want to go back to business as usual and have a normal life again that it's perfectly okay for Home Depot and the supermarket and countless other places to continue to operate as long as they're practicing social distancing. But the store next door cannot do that.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing, those businesses being in operation have not added to the numbers of people infected. And if that's true, then why isn't it every business isn't allowed to operate using those same circumstances? I think it's too much power for the governor to wield on his own. And people gave him the benefit of the doubt for a couple of weeks, but now I think people are starting to say, look, I'm an American citizen. It's my choice and my decision about how I live my life, not the governor's.
And to your point, we're talking with State Senator Rob Sampson. I said about a month ago, I said, listen, people will put up this about 2 weeks, but they won't put up for 2 months. And now the wheels are coming off, and now you're seeing rallies all over the country. Apparently there's going to be one here in Hartford Monday. There's a rally for Liberty rally of some sort, a drive rally. Drive 5 o'clock, drive your car on the Capitol, or do you know anything about that?
I've been invited to it, and I'm hearing lots and lots of conversation from my constituents. I will tell you, Will, 2 weeks ago when this all began, there was not a soul who would have said that the governor is doing something wrong.
No.
And, this is not a good idea. The thing is, this was billed as an unbelievable crisis that was going to affect us all in a monumental way. And I think people were scared, and it gave them the benefit of the doubt and said, okay, if that's true, then we're gonna shelter in place and we're gonna do our thing. But it just hasn't panned out. I don't want to minimize the seriousness of the virus.
No, it is, Rob, and that's the point.
This is the thing, is that people can't seem to separate the idea that I can take the virus very seriously and still advocate for social distancing and people being responsible and making smart choices about not spreading the virus, but also question when the governor or the president, for that matter, makes sweeping decisions that affect the freedoms of the citizens that I represent. That's my job, is to represent my constituents. Mm-hmm. You can do both.
Yes.
And I believe that the government's role is to advise people so that they can make their own smart decisions too.
Well, it's not only can you do both, you must do both. Because I'm going to tell you something, this state will be on its knees if we have these same policies for 2 more months. We will be on our knees. The state will be completely destroyed financially. It almost is now. And I was getting phone calls and reports. Oh, the bus line for Hartford Haven. There's people on the bus. There's no social distancing. Mark from West Hartford, one of my regular callers, telling me he's upset about the fact that seniors are getting loaded into vans and cars, 2, 3, 4 to clip, to be taken to hospitals for social. Where's the social distancing there? And now 6 weeks into it, he comes out with, oh, you have to wear a mask if you're on a bus. Where the heck was that 6 weeks ago?
Right, and these instructions are coming from people who only a few weeks ago said that masks are bad. Don't wear masks.
Don't wear masks. They don't help. I mean,
it's like mixed signals galore. And the thing that really is the biggest mixed signal of all, and I don't blame anyone for this, but originally they were talking about potentially millions of people being affected. And then it was 240,000, and then 100,000. And today we're talking about 60,000 deaths in the United States, and that's a terrible tragedy. But that is less than a typical flu death count per year.
Sure.
So people obviously are getting exercised, wondering why they're being forced to change their lives in such a dramatic way for something that it doesn't amount to more than a typical flu.
Well, I had Mike. We're talking with State Senator Rob Sampson. I had Mike France on yesterday, the chairman of the Conservative Caucus here in Connecticut, And we're talking the fact, why in the world are we looking at Connecticut in this macro view, including it with New York? Okay, Fairfield County, fine. But when you look at the other counties and recognize that 90% of the cases and deaths from this have happened in Fairfield County, New Haven County, and Hartford County. Litchfield County, or not Litchfield, Talon County, they've had, Windham County, they've had one death. 80 cases, 70 cases, 200 cases. So why are we dictating the entire state based on what's happening in Connecticut? Why can't we have a more creative, reasonable, safe approach to other parts of the state that aren't experiencing this?
Right, I completely agree. And I also think that it really ought to be left up to individual people and business owners to assess the risk of their particular operation and operate with precautions. And people can use their own wisdom and their own choice at what the risk is to go to any of those places. And they are. I keep explaining this to people that, yes, the governor is making all of these mandates, but there is not a cop car sitting out in front of everyone's home telling them they can't go anywhere. They're choosing to do it voluntarily. Everything that is being done as far as social distancing that is benefiting and helping the situation is being done voluntarily. You're absolutely right that every part of the state is in a total different situation. The governor is very Fairfield-centric in his remarks. Even when he was on TV earlier today,
yes,
his focus was on whether or not people, if businesses were closed in New York, whether they would come to Connecticut businesses instead if they were open. I mean, that's not a factor in Eastern Connecticut.
But that's not even a factor in Fairfield, and here's why. Again, this declaration that he's put out, this emergency declaration, gives him incredibly broad sweeping powers. I remember a time when they were going to shut the state parks down, but they checked your ID, they checked your license to see if you were a Connecticut resident before you went into a beach or a state park. We've been carding people since package stores opened. Are you going to tell me? Are you honestly going to ask me to believe that you can't take a restaurant in, I don't care, pick a place, New Haven, that wants to open, and they're going to use social distancing, and instead of having 100 patrons, they're only going to have 20 in there, and you're going to tell me you can't have people checking temperatures at the door and checking IDs and say, oh, I'm sorry, you're from New York, you can't come in? Are you going to tell me we can't do that under these kind of circumstances? The governor has full authority to issue such an executive order in that regard. But no, we're going to shut the whole state down because we're afraid somebody's going to drive across the line into Danbury?
Right. I don't know that I would advocate for the governor taking those types of measures, but I think that individual businesses certainly can. And I think people can use their own decision-making on whether or not a particular establishment is safe or taking the proper precautions before they want to go there.
I found this, and I read this on the air the other day, and I kind of time-stamped it a little. I tried to not time-stamp it. It was an article from 2009. It said that the Centers for Disease Control were recommending not closing schools. Now, what was going on in 2009? Oh, that was the H1N1 virus. And when this came out, I checked, there was no vaccine available yet. And they said, do not do this because when you close a school, that creates a significant ripple effect on parents and businesses and law enforcement. And it goes on and on. Who said that? Janet Napolitano, the Homeland Security Director. Now, what's different in 2009 than it was in 2020 when the CDC then said don't close the schools, and now everything's being shut down? The reason I bring that up, there's a story today from about the Commissioner, Miguel Cardona, saying that he's going to make a decision in 2 to 3 weeks about whether or not schools are going to reopen. I've been told by several people the decision's already made, schools will not reopen this year. And I'm wondering if our governor telegraphed that by mistake a little bit last night in his remarks when he said the 2 to 6 months before the states reopened.
Right. There is no question that there is that domino effect. I mean, if you're going to have kids out of school, now you have parents that have to make other adjustments to their lives and so forth. It will affect our society in a big way. I think what happened in this case, Will, is that they thought this was going to be much, much worse than the H1N1 is what it is. It just didn't turn out that way. Now it's very hard for them to walk that back. And, when you put people in positions of authority that make really broad sweeping decisions and assume the authority that they have the ability to do so, which you and I might argue about the extent of that constitutionality of that civil preparedness order that the governor is supposedly following. But the thing is that once you do that, now it's very difficult for them to back off because they will feel a personal responsibility if they somehow say things are safe and it doesn't turn out that way.
Right.
We should never have given them the ability to make those decisions for us as people to begin with. And I just want to stress one more time, that does not mean that you should not stop that you should stop social distancing, doing the smart thing. It's just the facts are very clear. This virus is deadly if you are elderly or you have a compromised immune system in some way. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to affect people in a really big way. The point of social distancing in the very beginning was not to prevent everyone from getting the virus. I don't know that we have the ability to do that. The point was to flatten the curve, they said, which was essentially to prevent our hospitals from being overrun with patients all at once. Not to say that people were not going to get the virus eventually. So when you flatten the curve, you also necessarily lengthen the curve. And what's happening now is by doing this, we are essentially prolonging this epidemic for a long, long time that didn't need to happen. It would have spiked and then went away. And we did that to prevent the hospitals from being overrun. But now it seems it's evolved into this idea that somehow we can eradicate the virus in some other way or social distance in such a dramatic way that it can prevent it. And I just don't think that's possible.
Well, again, I think there's more at play here than meets the eye, but I don't have any proof, so I'll leave it alone. Rob, I got to let you go. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for posting that this morning. I reposted it. I put my thoughts to it. People need to know. People need to know that your governor, our governor, is saying it could be 2 to 6 months before Connecticut's reopened. And I say that is absolutely unacceptable.
Thanks always for the opportunity, Will. I would say that in the next few weeks, things are going to change dramatically, or more and more people are getting angry and upset. And I just hope that the decisions that happen take that into account, so nothing bad happens.
No, I don't think anything's bad going to happen, but I think you're going to hear a lot more voices getting upset about this as time goes on. Rob, thanks so much for coming on. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Up the good work. Thank you. Up the good work. Thank you.